A chamber carved 5,000 years ago makes whispers travel through stone. This is the Hypogeum of Ħal Saflieni, an ancient sound frequency chamber built beneath Malta. By the end of this journey, you will understand how our Neolithic ancestors engineered sound to alter human consciousness itself. We will explore why a voice at the right pitch can shake a room, and how a soft word can travel around corners to create ghostly voices. What does this tell us about a civilization that viewed sound as a sacred technology? Beneath the sun-baked fields of modern Malta lies a world forgotten for millennia. Around 3,300 before the Common Era, a culture flourished here with a vision that defies simple explanation. They had no iron, no bronze, not even the wheel, yet they moved colossal stones to build temples that still stand. But their most profound work was not meant for the sky above. It was carved downward into the living rock, creating a hidden realm known today as the Ħal Saflieni Hypogeum. This was not a single act of construction, but a slow, sacred expansion over many generations. What began as a natural cave, perhaps a simple sanctuary, was patiently sculpted over centuries into a vast, three-level complex. It evolved from a place of ceremony into something far more intricate, a subterranean universe blending the realms of the living, the departed, and the divine. Its discovery was as sudden as its creation was gradual. In 1902, workers digging foundations for a new house broke through the roof of a chamber that had been sealed for over 4,000 years. They revealed not just a tomb, but an architectural masterpiece, a mirror of the great temples above ground, but inverted into the earth. The Hypogeum's design is meticulously layered. The upper level feels like an entrance hall to another world, with its smooth walls and carved facades imitating the temples on the surface. Descending further, the middle level opens into a maze of interconnecting chambers, some oval, some circular, all connected by narrow passages that twist and turn. And finally, the deepest level plunges into near darkness, a silent, womb-like space believed to be the most sacred of all. Each of these layers likely held a distinct purpose in the spiritual life of its builders, from honoring ancestors to performing rituals meant to commune with forces beyond human sight. The precision of this underground architecture alone is staggering, with rooms and doorways carved to perfect symmetry using only stone tools and relentless effort. But this mastery of stone was merely the foundation for something even more extraordinary. The true genius of the Hypogeum lies not just in how it was shaped, but in how it was designed to shape something invisible, something that travels through the very air we breathe, sound itself. Within this labyrinth of carved stone, one small room stands apart for its strange auditory power. It is called the Oracle Chamber, a name given by modern explorers who felt its peculiar energy. The space is intimate, an oval room carved with a care that suggests its importance, but its true function is revealed not by sight but by sound. If a person with a deep voice speaks or chants at just the right pitch, something remarkable happens. The very air in the room seems to thicken and hum. The sound does not simply echo, it multiplies, filling the entire chamber with a powerful vibration that you can feel in your bones. It is as if the walls themselves are singing back, amplifying a single voice into something overwhelming and profound. This is not a random trick of architecture. Acoustic researchers who have studied the Hypogeum have measured this effect precisely. They found the Oracle Chamber resonates most powerfully at a frequency of about 110 Hertz. That specific tone is within the natural range of a low male voice, meaning a chant or sustained note could easily trigger this resonant state. The builders achieved this through meticulous design, shaping the elliptical walls and the small niches carved into them to catch and reinforce that particular vibration. They essentially built a stone amplifier, a room tuned like a musical instrument to one fundamental note. Why would a Neolithic culture go to such extraordinary lengths? The answer may lie not in the stone, but in the mind. Modern scientific studies have begun exploring how sound frequencies affect the human brain. Research suggests that exposure to sound waves around 110 Hz can produce a noticeable shift in brain activity. This frequency range appears to quiet the language centers of the brain, the areas associated with everyday logic and linear thought. At the same time, it may stimulate activity in the right hemisphere, which is linked to intuition, creativity, and a sense of expanded awareness. For the people who built the Hypogeum, this would have been a sacred technology. Imagine a ritual in that darkened chamber. The flicker of oil lamps casts moving shadows on the smooth walls. A rhythmic chant begins, rising and falling until it locks into that resonant frequency. The room itself awakens, the sound becoming a physical force that vibrates through every person present. In that shared sensory experience, the boundary between the individual and the group, between the physical world and the spiritual realm, could begin to dissolve. This was likely not entertainment, but a tool for transformation, a method for a community or a spiritual guide to enter a different state of consciousness to seek visions, healing, or communion with ancestors. The oracle chamber was not merely a room where prophecies were made. It was an instrument designed to alter perception itself, turning sound into a doorway. And this was only the first of the Hypogeum's acoustic mysteries. But the oracle chamber's deep resonance was just one part of a much larger acoustic design. Another mystery unfolds in the long, curved passageways that connect the Hypogeum's many rooms. Here, a person can speak in a near whisper at one end of a corridor, and their words will travel with uncanny clarity to a listener at the far end, even bending around gentle curves in the stone. Yet someone standing just a few steps away off the direct path might hear only a faint, unintelligible murmur. This is a classic whispering gallery effect, a phenomenon seen in much later structures like the dome of St. Paul's Cathedral in London. It works because the builders shaped these passages with a precise, parabolic curvature and finished the limestone walls to an almost glassy smoothness. These surfaces do not absorb sound, they guide it, channeling sound waves along a specific path like water flowing through a stone conduit. Now, picture this feature not as a curiosity, but as a tool within a sacred, subterranean space lit only by flickering oil lamps. The air would be thick with smoke and shadow. An initiate, perhaps alone or with a small group, would move through these silent halls, their senses heightened by the darkness and the profound silence. Then a soft, disembodied voice would reach their ears, speaking words of guidance or prophecy. The voice would seem to come from nowhere and everywhere at once, from the very walls themselves. For a person immersed in that environment, the logical conclusion would be supernatural. This was not an accident of architecture, it was acoustic engineering with a spiritual purpose. It allowed priests or guides, hidden from view in adjacent chambers or niches, to project their voices as if they were the ancestors or the earth itself speaking. The architecture became an active participant in the ritual, a machine for manufacturing awe and belief through perfectly crafted auditory illusion. This level of sophistication reveals something profound about these Neolithic builders. They were not just stacking stones, they were master observers of the physical world. Achieving such precise acoustic control implies generations of careful experimentation, of trial and error, of listening and learning how sound behaved in their unique limestone environment. They developed an empirical understanding of sound physics centuries before the formal science of acoustics was born, all in service of creating an experience that could bridge the seen and unseen worlds. And if they could manipulate sound to speak for the gods, What other sensory experiences might they have engineered within this underground realm? The softness of the limestone bedrock was both a gift and a demand of staggering patience. To carve the hypogeum, its builders had no metal chisels, no powered drills, only tools fashioned from stone, bone, and wood. Their primary method was a relentless process of pecking and grinding. A worker would hold a hard chert or flint pick and strike the wall countless times, not to cut, but to crush the surface grain by grain. To smooth the rough surface, they would then use an abrasive like sand with a grinding stone or a piece of leather, polishing the rock for hours until it shone. This was how every square foot of wall, every curved ceiling, every perfect doorway was created. They were not just digging out rooms, they were sculpting in the negative, removing everything that was not the final form they held in their collective mind. The architectural precision is breathtaking when you consider the tools. They carved 3 distinct levels downward, maintaining the stability of ceilings and creating load-bearing doorways, all while ensuring the entire complex would not collapse in on itself. That it has stood intact for over 5,000 years is a silent, powerful testament to their understanding of engineering and geology. This context transforms our view of the acoustics. The smooth, parabolic walls that guide whispers and the resonant chamber that amplifies chants were not happy accidents. Achieving those surfaces required a deliberate, back-breaking choice. You do not spend generations polishing a wall to a glass-like finish unless you know exactly what that finish will do. The sound properties were baked into the blueprint from the very first strike of the stone pick. This monumental labor forces us to ask a deeper question. What belief system, what cultural imperative was so powerful that it justified such a colossal investment of human effort and time? The answer may lie not in the stone they removed, but in what they believed they were making space for within it. The profound silence of the hypogeum was never meant to be empty. It was a canvas waiting for specific sounds to fill it and transform the mind. This brings us to the third and most powerful acoustic mystery, the idea that this entire complex was a deliberate neuroacoustic technology, an ancient machine built not to process data, but to alter human consciousness itself. While the 110 Hz resonance of the oracle chamber forms a key piece of this puzzle, it was likely just one instrument in a larger sensory orchestra. To understand its full effect, we must step beyond the stone and into the experience. Picture the environment during a ceremony. The only light comes from the flicker of small oil lamps, casting dancing shadows that make the carved walls seem to breathe. The air is still and close, perhaps carrying the scent of smoke and earth. In this setting, the introduction of rhythmic sound, a steady drumbeat or a repetitive chant, begins to work on the mind. Anthropological studies of shamanic traditions from across the globe consistently show that repetitive sound and vibration are among humanity's oldest and most universal tools for entering non-ordinary states of awareness. The steady pulse of a drum, for instance, can influence brainwave patterns, guiding listeners toward a trance state often associated with healing, seeking visions, or spiritual communion. Now amplify that universal practice with the hypogeum's engineered acoustics. A drumbeat in the oracle chamber wouldn't just be heard, it would be felt as a deep vibration in the chest. A chant locking into that resonant frequency would cease to feel like a human voice and become an encompassing force that seemed to emanate from the earth. In such a heightened, multisensory environment, the effects would be profound. Participants could experience feelings of euphoria, a sense of detachment from their immediate surroundings, or a powerful heightening of suggestibility. In this altered state, the other acoustic illusions would complete the transformation. A whisper traveling perfectly along a curved corridor would no longer be a clever trick of physics. To a mind prepared by rhythm, resonance, and darkness, it would be the clear voice of an ancestor or a deity speaking from the stone. The overwhelming vibration in the oracle chamber could be interpreted as the palpable presence of a powerful spirit. This perspective fundamentally changes how we see the hypogeum. It moves from being a memorial site or a temple for passive observation to an active, immersive instrument. It becomes a prehistoric chamber designed for sensory modulation, using controlled overload of sound and deprivation of light to facilitate transcendental experiences for a chosen few. This was not a place for casual gathering, but for guided journeys, where the very architecture served as both the path and the guide into realms beyond ordinary perception. The ultimate purpose of such journeys, however, brings us to the most poignant mystery of all, one written not in sound but in silence. Yet for all its power as a sensory instrument, the hypogeum was not a sterile laboratory. It was the heart of a living, breathing belief system. To understand why sound was so sacred to its builders, we must step back and look at the world they inhabited above ground. This was the culture of Malta's temple period, a society that for over 1,000 years expressed its deepest values not in written texts, but in monumental stone and delicate clay. Among the many artifacts recovered from the hypogeum, one small figurine stands out, a masterpiece of Neolithic art known as the Sleeping Lady. She is a clay figure, only a few inches long, reclining peacefully on a couch. Her pose is one of deep rest, not of struggle, and her detailed dress and proportions suggest a figure of importance. Scholars have long debated her meaning. Does she represent a person in eternal sleep, a revered ancestor at rest? Or is she a depiction of a mother goddess, a divine figure symbolizing the regenerative power of the earth itself, in a state of dreaming or renewal? This single artifact opens a window into the central preoccupations of this ancient people, themes of fertility, transformation, and the cyclical journey from life to whatever lies beyond. Their temples, both above and below, are filled with symbols echoing these ideas. Curving walls suggest the form of a mother, protective and encompassing. Carvings of plants and animals speak to a reverence for life's abundance, and the very act of descending into the earth, into a carved womb of stone, was likely a powerful symbolic return to the source, a ritual meant to tap into primal creative forces. Within this context, the hypogeum's acoustics take on a richer, more poetic meaning. The deep, resonant frequency that vibrates through the oracle chamber could have been perceived as the literal voice of the earth, the hum of the living rock, or the heartbeat of a goddess. The whispers traveling through the corridors might not have been tricks to frighten initiates, but carefully orchestrated guidance, perhaps representing the voices of ancestors welcoming the living into the realm of the ancestors, or the subtle instructions of the divine itself. This was a culture that saw no sharp division between the physical and spiritual worlds. For them, sound was a bridge, a tangible force that could connect the community with the powers that governed life, death, and rebirth. The architecture itself reinforces this. Some of the chambers were once painted with red ochre, a pigment made from earth, often used in ceremonial contexts across the ancient world. Spirals and other geometric patterns in this earthy red would have swirled on the walls in the lamplight. The spiral is one of humanity's oldest symbols for eternity, for the cyclical journey with no beginning and no end, much like the seasons or the generations of a family. Now combine these elements in a ritual. You descend into the earth, the symbolic womb. The walls around you pulse with red spiral patterns speaking of eternal return. The air thrums with a deep, resonant chant that you feel in your core, a sound interpreted as the voice of the goddess. Your own consciousness, softened by the rhythm and the environment, begins to shift. In this state, a profound sense of connection could be forged, a visceral understanding of the culture's central myths about the continuity of existence. The hypogeum, therefore, emerges not just as an acoustic marvel, but as the ultimate expression of a holistic spiritual technology. Every element, from the curve of a wall to the pitch of a chant, from the symbol on the stone to the darkness between the lamps, was intentionally woven together. This was a machine for making meaning, designed to use the full human sensorium to enact and internalize the deepest beliefs of a civilization. It was a place where you didn't just hear about the cycle of life and death, you could feel it, vibrate with it, and for a moment become part of it. This realization about their integrated world makes their ultimate disappearance all the more haunting and perplexing. For centuries, the whispered stories of the Hypogeum's strange echoes belonged to the realm of folklore and wonder. Then, in the late 20th century, science arrived with its microphones and measuring tools, ready to listen. The goal was no longer to interpret the chamber's spiritual meaning, but to decode its physical properties, to translate ancient intuition into the precise language of data. This shift began in earnest when acoustic engineer Professor Richard Wright and his team entered the silent halls. They brought sensitive equipment designed to map the invisible landscape of sound. What they discovered was not subtle. Their tests confirmed that the oracle chamber possessed a powerful, distinct resonant frequency. When they projected sound into the room, they could measure how the architecture amplified and sustained specific tones, most powerfully around that key frequency of 110 Hz. The room did not just echo, it rang like a bell carved from the living earth. This was the first scientific proof that the acoustic behavior was not a myth, but a measurable, engineered feature of the stone. Later investigations would build on this foundation. A research group led by Dr. Paolo De Bertollis used even more advanced recording technology to create a detailed acoustic map of the entire complex. They documented how sound waves behaved in different chambers, measuring reverberation times and identifying standing wave patterns. Their work painted a clear picture. The Hypogeum's builders had sculpted a series of interconnected acoustic environments, each with its own sonic signature. The whispering corridors, the resonant oracle room, the silent deep chambers, all worked together as a cohesive system. This empirical data moved the conversation firmly out of speculation. We were no longer just wondering if the place had unusual acoustics. We now had charts and graphs that showed exactly how and why it did. The stone itself was keeping a precise record of its creator's intentions. Yet the most profound validation came not from studying the walls, but from studying ourselves. Separate scientific research began to explore how low-frequency sounds, exactly like the 110 Hz resonance of the oracle chamber, affect the human brain. Neurologist Dr. Ian Cook and others conducted experiments where participants were exposed to different sound frequencies while their brain activity was monitored. The results were striking. At frequencies near 110 Hz, researchers observed a notable decrease in activity in the brain's left prefrontal cortex, an area heavily involved in language processing and logical, linear thought. Simultaneously, there appeared to be a relative shift in activity toward the right hemisphere, regions more associated with intuition, holistic thinking, and emotional processing. In simpler terms, the specific sound the Hypogeum was tuned to produce seems to gently quiet the internal narrator, the voice of everyday logic, while allowing other, more expansive modes of awareness to come forward. This modern neuroscience provides a compelling bridge across 5,000 years. It suggests that the builders of the Hypogeum, through generations of observation and ritual practice, had discovered a profound psychoacoustic truth. They learned through experience that certain sounds could guide the mind into states conducive to vision, healing, or spiritual connection. They may not have understood brain waves or hemispheres, but they mastered the cause and effect. Their genius was in hardwiring this discovery into architecture, creating a permanent instrument that could reliably induce this shift for anyone who knew how to use it. Science, in a beautiful twist, is now confirming an ancient art. It tells us that the deep hum felt in that chamber is not just a curious vibration, but a key that fits a lock within our own neurology. This convergence of archaeology and neuroscience transforms the Hypogeum from a mysterious ruin into a documented testament to a lost science of the mind, a science that used stone and sound as its tools. With this understanding in hand, we are finally equipped to ask the most difficult question of all: what happened to the profound civilization that built this sonic temple? The profound silence that followed the builders of the Hypogeum raises a haunting question. Did their understanding of sacred sound vanish with them? The answer, echoing from stone chambers across the globe, is a resonant no. Malta's underground sanctuary is not an isolated acoustic wonder, but a brilliant note in a much older, universal symphony. From the fog-shrouded hills of Ireland to the sun-scorched plains of Egypt, we find the same principle carved into the bones of the earth, that sacred space was also, intentionally, sonic space. Consider Newgrange in Ireland, a massive passage tomb built around 3200 before the Common Era, contemporary with the Hypogeum. Its most famous feature is the roof box, a precise aperture above the entrance that channels the rising sun's rays deep into the central chamber on the winter solstice. This alignment is a masterpiece of archaeoastronomy, a calendar in stone. But recent acoustic studies reveal another layer of design. The long, narrow passageway and the high, corbelled ceiling of the central chamber create a unique acoustic environment. Sound within that space behaves differently than in the open air, with certain frequencies lingering and amplifying. The very shape built to capture a sliver of sunlight was also shaping the behavior of sound, likely making chants or drum beats during solstice ceremonies feel more powerful and enveloping to those gathered inside in the dark. Travel further to the plateau of Giza. While much later in time, the Great Pyramid of Khufu presents another compelling acoustic mystery. The Grand Gallery, that soaring, narrow corridor leading to the king's chamber, is an architectural marvel of precise angles and towering height. Some researchers and Egyptologists have proposed that this immense stone funnel was not just a passageway, but a giant resonance chamber. The theory suggests that during certain rituals, the chanting or rhythmic noise produced within the gallery would be focused and amplified, directed upward toward the chamber itself. The granite-lined walls of the king's chamber, with its own unique acoustic properties, might then have transformed that sound into an overwhelming, immersive experience for those within, a physical manifestation of power and presence. This pattern does not end with the Neolithic or Bronze Age. It evolves. The open-air theaters of ancient Greece were meticulously shaped to carry an actor's voice to every seat, thousands strong without amplification. Centuries later, the Gothic cathedrals of Europe were designed not just to inspire awe with their height, but to make choral music and liturgy swell and reverberate, filling the vast space with a sound that felt divine. What this global pattern reveals is a profound and recurring insight. From the very dawn of monumental architecture, our ancestors recognized that the places we build for our most important gatherings must engage more than just our eyes. They understood, perhaps intuitively at first, then through careful practice, that sound could shape emotion, focus attention, and create a shared psychological experience. The manipulation of sound was not a decorative afterthought, it was a foundational pillar of sacred design. This comparative view transforms our understanding of the Hypogeum. It moves from being a bizarre outlier to a pristine, underground textbook. While Greek theaters weathered and cathedral stones were modified, the Hypogeum's sealed environment preserved its original acoustic intent with perfect clarity. It is our clearest window into how a prehistoric culture operationalized this universal principle. They were not alone in their quest to build instruments for the human spirit, but they may have been among its most dedicated and sophisticated early engineers, proving that some of humanity's oldest technology was not meant to conquer nature, but to harmonize with the deepest frequencies of human experience. This duality of sound and silence brings us to the central question that has occupied archaeologists for over a century. What was the Hypogeum's true purpose? Was it a vast necropolis, a silent city of the departed, or a vibrant temple for the living? The evidence presents a compelling case for both. The physical record is clear. Within its chambers, researchers discovered the carefully placed remains of thousands of individuals, representing a community laid to rest over many generations. This was undeniably a sacred resting place, a collective memorial where the physical legacy of the people was honored and integrated into the earth. Yet, to label it solely a tomb feels incomplete, even misleading. The elaborate architecture tells another story. Why would a culture invest such staggering effort to carve smooth, parabolic walls, paint vibrant red ochre spirals, and engineer precise acoustic effects, all for a space meant only for the departed? These are features for the living. They are designed for ceremony, for gathering, for creating powerful shared experiences. The oracle chamber, with its resonant frequency, is not a passive space. It is an interactive instrument, one that requires a living voice to awaken it. The whispering galleries are conduits for communication, meant to be heard by living ears in the darkness. This points toward a profound cultural synthesis. The Hypogeum was likely not a place of one function, but a sacred complex that served the entire cycle of community life and belief. It was both a repository for physical remains and a dynamic theater for rituals that connected the living with the collective ancestors. In this worldview, the departed were not gone, but remained a vital, active part of the community's spiritual landscape. The acoustic features would have been essential in both contexts. During ceremonies of remembrance, the deep, resonant chants in the oracle chamber could transform funeral dirges into something more than expressions of grief. That overwhelming vibration might have been perceived as a bridge, a way for the living to feel the presence and approval of those who came before, turning mourning into a communal act of connection. Conversely, during initiations or seasonal rites meant to ensure fertility and abundance, those same acoustic properties could induce the altered states of consciousness that made divine communication feel real. A whisper traveling from the darkness would be the voice of an ancestor offering guidance. The thrumming chamber became the palpable heartbeat of the earth goddess. This dual purpose reflects a holistic world, where the boundary between the realm of the departed and the living was not a wall, but a porous membrane, actively mediated through ritual performance and sensory engagement. The Hypogeum was the ultimate tool for that mediation, a machine built from stone and sound to make the invisible connections of a culture tangibly, audibly real. Around 2500 before the Common Era, the long, steady rhythm of life on Malta shattered. The vibrant culture that had built the temples and carved the Hypogeum simply vanished. The great stone circles above ground fell silent, and the entrance to the underground world was sealed, either by human hands or by the slow accumulation of earth and time. For over 4,000 years, the Hypogeum slept in absolute darkness, its engineered whispers and resonant chambers forgotten by the world above. This sudden silence is one of prehistory's most enduring puzzles. What could cause a society with such profound architectural and spiritual sophistication to simply disappear? Researchers have proposed several theories, each painting a picture of a civilization under immense strain. One possibility is environmental. Centuries of intensive farming on the small islands may have exhausted the thin soil, leading to crop failures and famine. Another is climatic. Shifts in weather patterns could have brought prolonged drought or severe storms, disrupting the delicate balance of island life. Some suggest the arrival of new people from across the sea, bringing conflict or new ideologies that the old temple culture could not withstand. Perhaps the most haunting theory is one of internal collapse, a slow unraveling of the social and religious order that had held the society together for over a millennium. The very belief system that inspired the Hypogeum's creation may have become a burden, its demands too great for a population facing hardship. The profound silence that fell is as meaningful as the sounds that once filled it. This abandonment forces us to ask a poignant question about knowledge itself. When the last priest or guardian who understood the precise chants and the intended rituals passed away, did the manual for operating this sonic temple vanish with them? The architectural knowledge of how to build such a place was one thing, preserved in stone, but the performative knowledge, the specific songs, the rhythms, and the ceremonial sequences that activated its full potential, that was a living tradition. Without a community to practice and pass it on, that intricate science of the spirit could evaporate in a single generation. Alternatively, the site may have been deliberately sealed, a sacred act of closure. If the world was changing, if new beliefs were taking hold, the guardians of the Hypogeum might have chosen to protect its power, to retire the instrument by burying it, ensuring its mysteries would not be misused or profaned by those who did not understand. This act would transform the Hypogeum from an active temple into a time capsule, a gift deliberately left for a far future it could not imagine. The void left by this culture's disappearance is a stark reminder of the fragility of advanced understanding. It shows us that knowledge is not a permanent possession. A sophisticated grasp of the natural world, like the Archaeoacoustics mastered here, is not stored in books or hard drives alone. It lives within a culture's rituals, its stories, and its shared practices. When that culture fragments, that deep, experiential knowledge can slip through the cracks of history, lying dormant for centuries. The story of the Hypogeum is ultimately a story of rediscovery, where modern science, with its microphones and brain scans, is only now beginning to decipher what the builders knew intuitively, piecing together the echoes of a wisdom that was almost lost forever. The very rediscovery that brought the Hypogeum back to light also introduced its greatest modern peril. For decades after workers broke through its roof, the site was treated more as a curiosity than a national treasure. Tourists wandered through freely, their breath and body heat filling the sealed underground chambers with moisture and carbon dioxide. This invisible exhalation created a perfect environment for mold to bloom across the ancient limestone walls, slowly consuming the fragile red ochre paintings that had survived for millennia. The collective warmth of a crowd, a force of life, was inadvertently attacking the very art it had come to see. This silent damage forced a difficult realization. The Hypogeum could not withstand the modern world without protection. The solution was as clinical as the problem was organic. Today, entering the Hypogeum feels less like stepping into a tomb and more like boarding a spacecraft. Visitors are limited to a mere handful each day, their numbers strictly controlled. Before descending, groups must pass through a series of airlock doors designed to stabilize the interior climate and filter out contaminants. The time inside is brief, and silence is often requested, not for ceremony but for conservation. This careful, necessary protocol creates a profound paradox. To save the physical structure, we must severely restrict the human presence that could fully activate its intended purpose. The resonant chant that once shook the oracle chamber is now forbidden, as the moisture from a single sustained note could threaten the stone. The whispered conversations that might travel the ancient corridors are hushed. We preserve the instrument by ensuring it is never truly played. This presents a deep ethical dilemma for heritage conservation. How do we honor a site built for profound sensory experience when the experience itself risks its destruction? Is the ultimate fate of such a place to become a sterile museum piece, a silent artifact behind a climate-controlled glass box, its most revolutionary feature rendered mute? The answer may lie not in restricting access, but in redefining it. Emerging technologies offer a promising path forward. Through non-invasive three-dimensional laser scanning, researchers can now create a millimeter-perfect digital twin of the entire Hypogeum complex. Every curve of a whispering gallery, every contour of the oracle chamber can be mapped with incredible precision. This digital model can then be used for advanced acoustic modeling, allowing scientists to simulate exactly how sound behaves in the space, testing frequencies and sources without a single breath disturbing the ancient air. But the application goes beyond research. This data could be used to construct immersive virtual reality experiences or even physical replicas in other parts of the world. Imagine donning a headset and standing in a perfectly rendered oracle chamber, able to speak or chant at the resonant frequency and hear, through advanced audio simulation, exactly how the room would have responded 5,000 years ago, all without ever setting foot on Malta. Such a project would transform preservation from mere protection into active resurrection. It would allow for unlimited study, for experiential learning, and for a deeper public connection than fragile original stones could ever permit. The future of the Hypogeum and of countless other irreplaceable sites hinges on this delicate balance. We must protect the original at all costs, a sacred duty to the past. But we must also employ every tool at our disposal to understand and share its genius, a vital responsibility to the future. The goal is not to replace the real, but to use its perfect digital shadow to ensure the physical treasure endures, silent and safe, while its story and its sound echoes freely for generations to come. This digital frontier is already reshaping how we hear the past. Teams of archaeologists and acoustic engineers have employed a technology called LiDAR, which stands for light detection and ranging. This method uses laser pulses to map a physical space with extraordinary precision, capturing every contour, every curve, and every subtle imperfection in the stone. The result is a millimeter-accurate three-dimensional digital twin of the entire Hypogeum complex, a perfect virtual replica that exists as data. This model is far more than a visual map. When imported into specialized acoustic simulation software, it becomes a laboratory. Researchers can virtually place a sound source anywhere within the digital Hypogeum, a simulated chant in the oracle chamber or a whisper at the end of a corridor. The software then calculates exactly how those sound waves would propagate, reflect, and resonate throughout the entire carved labyrinth, providing insights with a level of scientific detail that would be impossible to achieve in the fragile original without causing harm. The application, however, moves far beyond pure research into the realm of profound personal experience. This digital data is the foundation for immersive virtual and augmented reality reconstructions. Picture yourself not on a flight to Malta, but in your own living room. You put on a high-fidelity virtual reality headset and a set of advanced headphones. With a simple command, you are transported. You are now standing in the oracle chamber, rendered in vivid detail from the laser scan data. The smooth, curved walls surround you, lit by the flickering glow of virtual oil lamps. Then you hear it. A deep, sustained chant begins, its frequency carefully tuned to 110 Hz. Through sophisticated audio programming that mimics the chamber's measured acoustic properties, you don't just hear the sound, you feel it. The audio in your headphones creates the sensation of that low-frequency resonance vibrating through the space and through you. You can turn your head, look at the carved niches, and hear how the sound changes with your perspective. You can even try speaking yourself, and the simulation will approximate how your own voice would behave in that ancient stone amplifier. This represents a revolutionary form of preservation. It is a digital resurrection that democratizes access in an unprecedented way. Not everyone can secure one of the highly restricted tickets to visit the physical site, and even those who do must remain largely silent observers. But through this technology, a student in Tokyo, a researcher in Buenos Aires, or a curious individual anywhere with the right equipment can conduct their own acoustic experiments. They can test different tones, experience the whispering gallery effect, and form a deeply personal, sensory connection with this ancient wonder. It transcends the heartbreaking limitations of physical conservation by creating an interactive, experiential record that is immune to decay. The original can remain silent and safe, while its perfect echo, its sonic soul, is set free to educate and inspire across the globe. This virtual doorway does not replace the profound awe of being in the actual presence of 5,000-year-old stone, but it offers something equally valuable, a key to understanding the genius that shaped it. And as we unlock this digital echo, we are compelled to ask what other silent sites around the world are waiting for their voices to be heard again in this way. The Hypogeum's silent stones whisper a profound truth about our shared history. We often envision prehistory as a stark, silent world defined by the struggle for food and shelter, a timeline marked by the invention of the plow, the mastery of fire, and the shaping of flint. But what if we have been listening to the wrong story? The evidence carved beneath Malta suggests a parallel narrative of human advancement, one where the development of agriculture and stoneworking was accompanied by an equally sophisticated mastery of something intangible, the physics of sound itself. These builders were not just farmers and masons, they were early acousticians, engineers of experience. They understood that sound was a force that could shape reality as powerfully as any stone tool. This realization forces a dramatic reframing of our ancient past. It moves us from a vision of a grim, survival-only existence to one that included the deliberate, communal pursuit of transcendental knowledge. For them, sound was a foundational technology as crucial to their society as irrigation or architecture. Its primary purpose extended far beyond simple communication. Within the engineered chambers of the Hypogeum, sound served as the ultimate tool for social cohesion. A shared, overwhelming sonic experience in that resonant darkness would have dissolved individual boundaries, forging a powerful sense of collective identity and shared purpose among participants. It was also, as we have seen, a precise instrument for spiritual journeying, a method to reliably alter states of consciousness to commune with what they perceived as the divine or the ancestral. There is even compelling speculation, supported by cross-cultural studies, that such low-frequency vibrations were used in ceremonial practices aimed at healing, using sound's physical force to promote a sense of well-being and restoration. This points toward a form of knowledge transmission we have largely forgotten. In an age before written language, how did a culture preserve its most complex ideas, its myths, its understanding of the cosmos, and its healing practices? The Hypogeum suggests that sound and vibration themselves may have been the medium. The specific frequencies, the rhythms of the chants, the sequences of tones used in ritual, these were not random. They were a living, resonant library. To learn the sacred songs was to internalize the culture's core knowledge. The architecture acted as a permanent reference manual, a stone tuning fork that ensured the correct frequencies were reproduced generation after generation. The Hypogeum, therefore, is not merely an ancient temple. It is a monumental testament to a form of sonic literacy that has faded from human memory. It challenges us to expand our definition of early technology to include the intentional crafting of atmosphere and experience. It asks us to reconsider every ancient ceremonial site, every stone circle and painted cave, not just as places of ritual, but as potential instruments designed to interact with the human mind and spirit through curated sound. Our ancestors were not just surviving in their world, they were actively composing it, using the very air and stone as their medium to create symphonies of meaning that resonated through the centuries. What other forgotten frequencies are waiting to be heard, Science can map the frequencies and measure the echoes, but it cannot quiet the human instinct to tell stories about the dark. Alongside the precise data from acoustic scans exists another, older layer of understanding, one woven from whispers passed down through generations. Maltese folklore surrounding the Hypogeum and the island's many other caves and catacombs is rich with tales that speak directly to the uncanny feeling the place evokes. These are not archaeological reports, but they are a vital form of testimony, revealing how the human psyche has grappled with this subterranean mystery for centuries. One of the most persistent legends warns of secret tunnels hidden deep within the complex that wind their way to the sea. The story suggests that in ancient times, these passages served as escape routes or secret channels, and that they may still lie undiscovered, waiting in the darkness. Another common thread in the local stories involves mysterious disappearances. Tales are told of early explorers or even modern tourists who ventured off the known path within the labyrinth and were never seen again, swallowed by the earth as if the chambers themselves were alive and hungry. Then there are the guardians. Folklore often populates such powerful places with protective spirits, entities said to watch over the ancient site, discouraging disrespect or theft with an unsettling presence, a sudden chill in the air, or the faint, inexplicable sound of footsteps in an empty corridor. Perhaps the most captivating legend of all concerns the deepest level of the Hypogeum. For over a century, a story has circulated about a chamber that was found and then swiftly sealed shut. Within this room, the tale claims, were the remains of beings unlike any other skeletons of immense size, with unusually elongated skulls. This narrative was fueled by real events from the early 20th century, when reports surfaced that several unusual skulls had indeed been discovered during excavations. These artifacts, however, were said to have been later lost or removed, leaving behind no physical evidence, only a vacuum filled with speculation. While mainstream archaeology attributes any unusual skeletal finds to the complex burial practices and natural processes within the site, the legend of the giants endures. It taps into a universal fascination with lost races and hidden histories, a way to explain the monumental scale of the architecture itself. How else could such massive stones have been moved, some wondered, if not by a people of greater stature and strength than our own? It is crucial to understand that these stories are not presented here as historical fact. They are folklore, the mythic patina that forms on places too strange to be explained by ordinary means. And that is precisely their value. These legends are not a distraction from the truth of the Hypogeum. They are an essential part of its human truth. They demonstrate how the site's very design, its profound darkness, its disorienting maze of passages, and especially its ghostly acoustics actively generates a sense of the mysterious. When a whisper bends around a corner and arrives at your ear as a clear, disembodied voice, the rational mind seeks an explanation. Science provides one, but the storytelling instinct provides another, often more immediately satisfying to the imagination. The folklore is the cultural echo of the physical echo, a narrative response to an environment that feels inherently supernatural. This blending of sensory experience and story has woven the Hypogeum firmly into Malta's cultural identity. It is not seen merely as an archaeological site, but as a place of power. It is a locus of mystery where the past feels palpably close and not entirely at rest. It carries a touch of sanctioned danger, a recognition that some knowledge and some places are meant to be approached with awe and a degree of trepidation. The legends ensure that even as we analyze the site with lasers and microphones, it never loses its essential strangeness. They remind us that the Hypogeum was always meant to be more than a physical structure. It was an experience that challenged perception, and that challenge continues to reverberate, not just in stone, but in the stories we tell about what might still lie in the silent dark. The vanished skulls from the Hypogeum represent one of archaeology's most frustrating ghost stories. In the early 1900s, as the site was being cleared and studied, several reports emerged describing unusual human remains. Among them were skulls noted for their distinct elongation, a condition known as dolichocephaly. A handful of these specimens were reportedly removed from the site, and in the chaotic early decades of Maltese archaeology, their trail went cold. All that remains today are a few written descriptions and some period sketches, leaving a vacuum of hard evidence that has been filled with generations of speculation. This absence is the seed from which the most sensational theories have grown, suggesting the builders of the Hypogeum were themselves a distinct, perhaps even otherworldly, humanoid species. It is a compelling narrative, one that offers a simple, if extraordinary, answer to the complex question of who could have engineered such a place. Yet when we examine the facts through the lens of modern anthropology, a more grounded, though no less fascinating, explanation emerges. Cultural practices around the world, from ancient Peru to certain Pacific islands, show a long history of intentional cranial modification. This was often achieved in infancy by gently binding the head with cloth or boards, a practice that over time would shape the growing skull into an elongated form. For these cultures, the altered shape was a mark of beauty, status, or spiritual identity. It is entirely plausible that the society which built the Hypogeum held similar beliefs, viewing an elongated head as a sign of nobility or a closer connection to the divine. Alternatively, some of the elongation could be the result of natural post-mortem processes, where the weight of Earth over centuries can slowly compress and distort buried remains. The controversy, then, tells us less about ancient giants and more about the infancy of archaeology itself. A century ago, the field was often less a science and more a treasure hunt, plagued by inconsistent record-keeping and a rampant trade in artifacts. The loss of these skulls is not evidence of a cover-up, but a tragic example of how critical data can vanish through negligence, leaving behind a mystery that obscures the true wonder. By chasing the phantom of lost giants, we risk overlooking the genuine marvel standing right before us. The real giants of this story are not mythical beings with elongated skulls, but the very real, profoundly intelligent Neolithic people who conceived and carved this acoustic masterpiece. Their legacy is not written in a few missing bones, but in the enduring stone of the oracle chamber, in the mathematical precision of the whispering galleries, and in the sophisticated understanding of sound and human perception that these features prove. Honoring their achievement means focusing on the tangible, measurable genius they left behind, a legacy of innovation and spiritual depth that is remarkable enough without requiring any supernatural explanation. This shift in focus from lost artifacts to lasting architecture invites us to listen more closely to what the stones themselves are saying. To truly appreciate this sonic instrument, we need to look closer at its construction. The oracle chamber is not just a room, it is a carefully calculated resonator. Its elliptical shape is the first clue. Unlike a square or rectangular room where sound waves bounce chaotically in corners, an ellipse has two focal points. Sound generated at one focal point is reflected and concentrated at the other. The builders likely positioned a speaker or chanter at one of these natural acoustic hotspots, ensuring their voice was powerfully focused and amplified throughout the entire space. Within this chamber sits a smaller, deeply carved niche often called the Holy of Holies. This recess is not merely decorative. Its curved back and angled sides act as a perfect sound reflector, catching the resonant frequencies swirling in the main chamber and bouncing them back with increased clarity and force, creating a layered, complex echo that enriches the overall sonic texture. Step out into the larger halls and the design principles continue. The ceilings here are not flat but smoothly curved, arching overhead like the inside of a cello or a giant stone seashell. This curvature is acoustically vital. A flat ceiling would cause sound to scatter and lose energy quickly. A curved surface, however, guides sound waves along its contour, allowing them to travel further with less diffusion. A chant or drumbeat would not just be heard locally, it would sweep through the corridor, maintaining its power and presence. Even the entrance to this underworld plays a role. The passages leading down are narrow and twist deliberately. These were not just corridors, they likely functioned as natural sound baffles. Just as a maze of hallways in a recording studio prevents street noise from entering, these twisting stone tunnels would have helped isolate the sacred interior acoustics from the sounds of the wind, animals, or daily life on the surface above. The silence within was as engineered as the resonance. Modern excavation, which removed millennia of accumulated silt and rubble from the floors, undoubtedly altered the acoustics from their exact original state. A layer of soft earth would have absorbed some sound, making the chambers slightly less reverberant. Clearing it out allowed the true voice of the architecture to ring clear once more, revealing the core principles with stunning clarity. Every architectural decision we see, the specific angle of a wall, the calculated height of a ceiling, the strategic placement of a doorway or niche, points toward an underlying blueprint of resonance. This was not a temple that happened to have good acoustics. It was a musical instrument that happened to be made of stone, meticulously tuned over generations to play one specific, transformative song for the human spirit. Beyond the careful shaping of stone lay another, more fluid element in the acoustic design. The deepest chambers of the Hypogeum rest at the island's natural water table, where the cool, damp air of the earth meets the silent seep of groundwater. This constant, pervasive humidity would have fundamentally altered the soundscape. Moist air is denser than dry air, and physics tells us that sound waves travel faster and with greater clarity through a dense medium. The very atmosphere in those lower halls, thick with water vapor, would have made the engineered resonances of the oracle chamber feel even richer, more penetrating, and more physically palpable. A chant that vibrated the bones in dry conditions might have felt like a tangible force in that damp, charged air. This was not an obstacle for the builders, but a feature they knowingly incorporated. They understood their material, limestone, not as a dead block, but as a living, breathing substance that interacted with the environment. By carving down to the water table, they were tapping into a natural amplifier, using the humidity of the earth itself to enhance their sonic architecture. This presence of water would have added its own voice to the ceremonies. In the profound silence between chants or drumbeats, the steady, rhythmic drip of water from the porous ceiling would have been clearly audible. In those quiet moments, this natural percussion would have been amplified by the same curved walls and ceilings, becoming a ghostly, elemental metronome echoing through the dark. It provided a constant, organic backdrop, a reminder that the rituals were taking place within the living body of the earth. The symbolic weight of this water cannot be overstated. For Neolithic agricultural societies, water was the ultimate source of life, the difference between abundance and hardship. It was also universally seen as a boundary, a cleanser, and a gateway to the underworld. To descend into a realm where water pooled in shadows and dripped from stone was to enter the symbolic womb of the world, a place of primal power and potential rebirth. The sound of that water, then, was not just an acoustic accident. It was the voice of the source itself, harmonizing with human ritual. This reveals the true sophistication of the Hypogeum's design. The builders did not see themselves as imposing a structure upon a passive landscape. Their approach was profoundly holistic. They selected a specific type of stone known for its acoustic properties. They carved it into shapes that exploited the physics of sound, and they positioned their entire creation within an environmental niche, the humid space at the water table that would naturally enhance the desired effect. They worked in concert with the inherent qualities of their location, treating the Earth's moisture and the rock's resonance as co-creators in the project. The goal was a total sensory environment where every element, from the carved wall to the damp air to the echoing drip of water, worked in unison to guide the participants' mind. It was a seamless fusion of geology, meteorology, and human intention, all orchestrated to open a doorway in perception, proving that their sacred technology was not built on the land, but woven directly from its most fundamental elements. Beneath the audible chants and whispers lies a fourth, more subtle mystery, a frequency felt rather than heard. This is the realm of infrasound, vibrations lower than 20 Hertz beneath the threshold of human hearing. While our ears cannot register these deep pulses, our bodies most certainly can. Infrasound travels as a powerful, long wave that can resonate with our internal organs, creating sensations that range from a profound sense of awe and unease to feelings of pressure in the chest or even fleeting visual disturbances. The natural world is full of these silent frequencies, generated by everything from distant ocean storms to wind flowing across specific geological formations. Within the enclosed, sculpted world of the Hypogeum, the conditions for generating such low-frequency energy were uniquely present. Consider the architecture itself. The long, narrow entrance shafts and corridors could have acted like wind instruments. A steady breeze moving across the surface opening might channel down into the complex, setting up a low, throbbing hum within the stone chambers below, much like blowing across the top of a giant bottle. Furthermore, the site's proximity to the Mediterranean Sea introduces another possibility. The constant, rhythmic pounding of waves against the island's cliffs generates powerful infrasonic energy that travels through the bedrock. The Hypogeum, carved directly into that limestone, could have acted as a natural receiver, translating the sea's distant pulse into a faint, pervasive vibration within its deepest halls. For a person standing in the oracle chamber during a ceremony, the experience would have been multi-layered. Consciously, they would hear the resonant chant at 110 Hertz and feel its audible vibration. Subconsciously, their body might also be registering this deeper, inaudible pulse from the earth or the sea. The combined effect could induce powerful physiological responses, a dizzying sense of disorientation, an unexplained feeling of dread or euphoria, or the unsettling impression of a presence in the room. Modern paranormal investigators have noted a curious correlation, finding measurable infrasound in locations often described as haunted, where people report feelings of being watched or experiencing sudden chills. This is not to suggest the Hypogeum was designed to be frightening, but rather that its builders may have recognized, perhaps intuitively, that certain spaces possessed a palpable energy that heightened spiritual receptivity. They may have selected the site or refined its shape to amplify these natural, sub-audible vibrations. This adds a profound dimension to our understanding of the site as a holistic sensory instrument. It was not only engineered for the ears and the conscious mind, but potentially for the entire nervous system. The architecture could have been tuning the very body of a participant, using unheard frequencies to prepare the physical self for a transcendental journey, making the boundary between the self and the supernatural feel not just psychologically plausible, but physically real. This silent layer of influence reminds us that the most powerful forces in a sacred space are often the ones we cannot directly perceive. The silent stones of the Hypogeum were only half the instrument. To hear its true voice, we must ask what filled the air. What kind of music could awaken such a carefully tuned space? While no physical instruments were discovered within its chambers, the broader Neolithic world provides compelling clues. Across Europe and beyond, archaeologists have unearthed the simple, profound tools of prehistoric sound. Drums, likely made from animal skins stretched over wooden frames, would have provided a deep, resonant heartbeat. Delicate flutes carved from the hollow bones of birds could weave higher, melodic threads through the darkness. Then there are the instruments of stone itself, like lithophones, carefully selected rocks that ring with a clear, bell-like tone when struck. But one device stands out for its potential to dominate the oracle chamber, a tool known as a bullroarer. This is a simple slab of wood or stone attached to a cord. When swung in a wide circle, it spins through the air, creating a powerful, pulsating roar that varies in pitch with its speed. In the hands of a skilled user, a bullroarer could be tuned to that critical 110 Hertz frequency. Swung within the resonant oracle chamber, its sound would not merely be heard, it would become an all-encompassing physical force, a drone so deep and overwhelming it would feel less like a noise and more like the atmosphere itself was vibrating. Add to this the human voice chanting in unison at that same resonant pitch, the rhythmic stomp of feet on the stone floor, and the sharp clap of hands. Each sound would interact uniquely with the architecture, some frequencies amplified into thunder, others guided like whispers down distant halls. This transforms our understanding from static architecture to dynamic performance. We can now move beyond speculation through a field known as experimental archaeology. Researchers collaborate with musicians and sound artists to recreate these ancient instruments using period-appropriate materials and techniques. Then, using the precise three-dimensional acoustic models generated from laser scans, they can simulate how these sounds would have behaved within the digital twin of the Hypogeum. This scientific process allows us to audition the past, to test which combinations of drum, flute, bullroarer, and voice create the most powerful interactions with the stone. It shifts the Hypogeum from a silent, mysterious ruin in our imagination into a vibrant and likely deafening ritual theater. This was not a place of quiet contemplation, but of sensory overload, where sound was the primary actor, the script, and the special effect all in one. The architecture provided the stage, but the performance was a roaring, pulsing, living event that used every tool available to sculpt the collective experience of everyone present. The Hypogeum story does not end with science or archaeology. Its powerful blend of deep time and resonant mystery has seeped into the modern creative spirit, inspiring artists, musicians, and storytellers who may never set foot on Malta. This ancient sound chamber has become a muse, a symbol that travels far beyond academic journals. Novelists have woven its echoing halls into plots of historical fiction and speculative thrillers, where the oracle chamber's frequency becomes a key to unlocking forgotten powers or communicating across millennia. Musical composers, particularly in genres like ambient and experimental electronica, have created entire albums conceptually dedicated to the site, using synthesized tones to emulate its 110 Hz resonance, attempting to capture its haunting atmosphere in sound. Documentary series devoted to ancient mysteries inevitably feature its corridors, presenting the acoustic data alongside lingering shots of the red ochre spirals, framing it as one of the world's enduring enigmas. This cultural absorption is telling. Artists are not drawn to the Hypogeum merely because it is old. They are captivated by its potent fusion, a 5,000-year-old artifact that speaks directly to 21st century questions about consciousness, technology, and humanity's place in the universe. It represents a point where profound antiquity meets cutting-edge neuroacoustic science, a tangible link between ancient ritual and modern brain research. This ongoing resonance in film, literature, and music performs a vital function. It ensures the Hypogeum remains alive in the public imagination, sparking curiosity in audiences who might never pick up an archaeological report. A viewer watching a documentary segment might be prompted to look deeper. A listener lost in an ambient album inspired by the site might feel a visceral connection to that ancient space. Through these channels, the Hypogeum transcends its identity as a static historical site. In the realm of popular culture, it transforms into a powerful and versatile metaphor. It stands for lost knowledge, for civilizations whose sophistication we are only beginning to grasp. It symbolizes the eternal human drive to perceive and manipulate the invisible forces that shape our reality, whether we call those forces sound waves, spiritual energy, or the fabric of consciousness itself. Ultimately, the Hypogeum's journey into art and media reflects our own collective yearning. It becomes a story we retell about our species' relentless quest to connect with something greater, whether that search is conducted through the discipline of science, the expression of art, or the introspection of spirituality. The chamber's true echo is not just in its stone, but in the endless human creativity it continues to inspire. The delicate balance between access and preservation defines the Hypogeum's modern chapter. With global fascination growing, a critical question emerges: how do we share this wonder without loving it to death? The current model of extreme visitor limitation, with its airlocks and timed entries, is not about exclusion for its own sake. It represents a pioneering, if strict, form of sustainable cultural tourism. This system consciously prioritizes the long-term survival of the site over short-term profit or mass convenience. Every breath withheld from the chamber's ancient air is a victory for preservation. Yet this necessary protection creates a genuine dilemma. It makes profound first-hand experience a rare privilege, accessible to only a tiny fraction of those who wish to learn from it. This tension points toward a necessary evolution in how we steward such irreplaceable places. We must champion policies that see controlled access not as an end but as a means. The revenue from carefully managed visitation should be directly channeled back into conservation science and, crucially, into the advanced digital replication technologies we explored. Investing in perfect virtual models and immersive simulations is not a diversion of resources, it is an expansion of them. It creates a parallel, accessible avenue for education and wonder that relieves pressure on the original stone. Furthermore, the visitor experience itself must be reimagined as an educational journey that begins long before the descent, preparing guests with rich context about the site's fragility, its acoustic genius, and its spiritual significance transforms a simple tour into a meaningful pilgrimage. When someone understands that the silence they are asked to keep protects 5,000-year-old paintings, their compliance becomes an act of respect, not a restriction. This layered approach, blending strict physical conservation with expansive digital access and deep education, offers a path forward. The ultimate goal is to ensure the Ħal Saflieni Hypogeum endures not as a silent, sealed vault, but as a living source of inspiration. We must preserve the physical instrument so that future generations, armed with tools we cannot yet conceive, may continue to listen to its echoes and ask new questions. This is not a task for any single institution, but a collective commitment to stewardship, a promise to the past that its greatest achievements will still have a voice in the world to come. The stones have yielded their acoustic secrets, but the Hypogeum story is far from complete. Its silence holds a series of unanswered questions, each one a potential doorway to deeper understanding. Future research will likely move beyond broad surveys into the realm of microscopic detail and non-invasive exploration. Imagine a small, silent robotic probe, equipped with sensitive laser microphones and spectral cameras, navigating the deepest chambers. Such a device could perform exhaustive acoustic mapping and surface analysis without ever disturbing the delicate climate with human breath or body heat. This would allow scientists to create an even more perfect sonic blueprint of the entire complex, perhaps identifying subtle resonances in smaller niches that have so far gone unnoticed. Another frontier lies in the very bones of the builders themselves. Advances in archaeogenetics could, with careful ethical consideration, analyze the recovered remains to tell us not just about ceremonial practices, but about the people. Where did they originate? Were they a genetically distinct population? What stories of migration, health, and kinship are written in that ancient DNA? This data could transform anonymous ancestors into a connected community with a traceable history. Similarly, the analysis of microscopic residues on the chamber floors and walls holds incredible promise. Using techniques from forensic science, researchers could sweep for traces of organic material long since vanished to the naked eye. The chemical signature of burned incense, the pollen of specific ceremonial plants, or the unique compounds of ochre pigments mixed with binders like animal fat could all be detected. This would move us from guessing about rituals to knowing with scientific certainty what substances were used to engage the senses of smell and sight alongside the overwhelming power of sound. To weave these disparate threads into a coherent picture, a new model of collaboration is essential. The most profound discoveries will come from interdisciplinary teams where archaeologists sit beside acoustical engineers, neuroscientists, and scholars of comparative ritual. An acoustician can map a frequency, but a ritual studies expert can contextualize how that tone fits into known patterns of ceremonial practice worldwide. A neuroscientist can explain the brain's response, while an archaeologist grounds that response in the specific material culture of the site. This fusion of hard data and humanistic interpretation is the key to moving from measuring the instrument to understanding the symphony it was meant to play. Yet perhaps the most elusive question of all is phenomenological. We can chart the sound waves and list the probable ritual elements, but what was it truly like to stand in that oracle chamber during a ceremony? The subjective, emotional weight of the experience, the collective feeling of awe or transcendence, escapes our instruments. That first-hand, lived reality is the one thing we can never fully recover, no matter how advanced our technology becomes. This gap ensures the hypogeum remains an open question, a perpetual dialogue between our analytical present and their experiential past. It is not a puzzle to be solved and filed away, but an ongoing invitation, a call for ever more refined and respectful investigation that honors both the precision of the science and the profundity of the human spirit that built it. This intricate web of evidence converges on a single, transformative idea. The Ħal Saflieni Hypogeum is not merely an ancient burial site or a temple with good acoustics. It stands as a meticulously engineered psychoacoustic vault, a stone instrument built to modulate human consciousness. Every carved curve, every polished surface, and every calculated resonance point toward a Neolithic theory of mind, a profound understanding that external, physical stimuli could be used to sculpt internal, subjective reality. These builders were not just moving megaliths for survival or simple ceremony. They were early philosophers and scientists of perception, conducting a grand, generations-long experiment at the very intersection of the material world and the inner world of thought and spirit. They observed that specific sounds within a specifically shaped environment produced reliable changes in awareness, and they codified that discovery into architecture. The chamber itself is a fossilized thought, a permanent installation of the belief that audible vibration could act as a bridge between the world of the living, the realm of the ancestors, and the domain of the divine. This realization fundamentally challenges the outdated, simplistic view of ancient peoples as beings driven solely by pragmatic concerns of food and shelter. It reveals a culture engaged in deep inquiry, exploring the fundamental nature of experience itself. They sought not just to live in their world, but to understand its hidden mechanisms, particularly those that connected the cosmos to the human psyche. In understanding the hypogeum, we gain a humbling insight. Our ancestors operated within a sophisticated, holistic knowledge system where what we now separate as art, science, engineering, and spirituality were woven into a single, seamless fabric. The architect was also the acoustician, the priest was also the psychologist, the ritual was also the experiment, This integrated way of knowing allowed them to create spaces that were both spiritually potent and physically precise, tools for transcendence built from a deep empirical understanding of sound and stone. Their legacy is a powerful lesson for our own fragmented age, a reminder that the most profound human achievements often emerge not from compartmentalized expertise, but from a unified quest to comprehend the full spectrum of existence, from the resonant frequency of a rock chamber to the quiet expanse of a mindful state. The Hypogeum of Ħal Saflieni is a testament to a timeless human truth, our enduring fascination with the power of sound to shape reality. This ancient chamber is far more than an archaeological site. It is a prehistoric instrument, a resonant bridge between the tangible world of stone and the intangible realms of belief, community, and consciousness. From the deep, bone-shaking resonance of the oracle chamber to the ghostly clarity of its whispering corridors, every carved surface speaks of a civilization that understood vibration as a sacred technology. They were not merely building a tomb or a temple, they were engineering an experience, using the physics of sound to sculpt shared states of awareness and forge a profound connection to the cycles of life and what lies beyond. This underground masterpiece reveals a world attuned to frequencies that modern science is only now beginning to measure and understand, confirming an ancient intuition with hard data. It challenges the notion of a silent, simplistic past, proving that some of our ancestors' most profound knowledge was encoded not in written language, but in the very architecture of their most sacred spaces. The precise curvature of a wall, the calculated height of a ceiling, the strategic placement of a niche, these were their alphabet, spelling out a sophisticated understanding of how environment shapes the human mind. As we continue to study and protect this wonder with lasers, digital models, and a deep sense of stewardship, its legacy offers a powerful invitation. It asks us to listen more deeply, not just with our ears, but with our curiosity, to the silent stories held within ancient stones and to the innovative spirit that has always driven us to seek connection with forces greater than ourselves. The Hypogeum's true echo is not just a sound, but an idea that the quest to harmonize with the unseen rhythms of existence is a thread woven through the entire human story. If this journey into ancient acoustics resonated with you, consider subscribing for more explorations into history's greatest mysteries, and share your own thoughts on the purpose of this sonic temple in the comments below.